Hey everybody out there. Welcome to 428 Shapes. That is my channel. And it's all about abstract art. If you're new to the channel, I would suggest looking at my previous videos to show some of my finished work. This here was just my practice run before making this video. I just took about 30 or 40 minutes and just put that together. I know 30 or 40 minutes in that little bit, that's nothing. But that's how I work. I'm not an artist, a great artist, but a lot of people like what I do. Most people that see it, their first impression is do I do tattoos? No. I can't do tattoos. I have a hard enough time on paper than on somebody's skin. However, that being said, I hope I can inspire. If you had any interest in abstract art, just didn't know how to get started, my introduction to abstract started with me just practicing the alphabet with Old English lettering with a calligraphy pen, and then I moved on from there. So this, like I said, this was my sampler. Something that I just practiced on before actually began recording. But this video basically is how to use dip pens for abstract art. And I'm sure dip pens by terminology may not necessarily make sense, but if you remember the old days, the guys had the feather tip pens and they were dipping the pens in the ink. Well, that's exactly what this is. I've always had an interest in drawing, but I've always used pencils or ballpoint pens. But when I got my taste of calligraphy pens, actually was a felt tip pen, but it had the dip pen idea as far as shape is concerned and its usage. But from there I grew. I grew from using felt tip pens, ballpoint pens, and now I use calligraphy pens. I mean, they're all different shapes and sizes. The tips, as you can see, you got your really fine point pen or tip right here. See if I can get you a good look at it. So it's a very fine tip pen. This has got a little bit of a broader tip. All these have different shapes and sizes. Some of them are thicker than others. Some of them are really fine point tips to try to illustrate them is a little difficult under these conditions, and the fact that I'm not a pro at videography. However, that's enough about that. Let me get started. Like I said, it's how to use these dip pens, and like I said, it's abstract art. What is abstract art? Do you ever really recognize very much of anything in abstract art? That's what makes it so interesting, because it doesn't have to look like anything to look good. And I guess that's why, I mean, some of the abstract paintings that went for thousands upon thousands, maybe even millions of dollars, wasn't a portrait, it was abstract. But if you, like I said, if you like to doodle with a ballpoint pen, but frustrated because you can't draw what you want, that's basically me. I could never really, I still can't. I can't really, I mean, I've drawn things more than abstract, but not very well and not very often. Like I said, abstract art, you make a mistake and nobody knows but you. And you can either leave it as is, or you can fix it up, or work off of it. But let me get started. Like I said, this pen here, as I said, if you see my other art, I do a lot of lettering, people's names. And this is my main pen for doing letters, but it's not exclusively for doing letters. So let me just get started. Usually when I get started, I'm getting started off of a letter, or name. That's how 90% of my work is from doing names. But I'm trying to get into doing more of just general art without necessarily names. Or as you might have seen in my previous videos, also, most of my work was putting the abstract art around or framing the name with the art. And then there's a few examples in my previous videos where I actually made the letter itself the art. Like I said, I'm not very creative myself. I've got a few techniques that I use, mainly just shapes and shading and sometimes, like I said, I started out doing the Gothic stuff, the fancy designs, leaves and whatnot around the letters. But I had so many people that commented about the tattoos. I started looking at the tattoo books, trying to draw them. Of course, I couldn't draw anything that's in the tattoo books, but it gave me a lot of ideas on just shapes and patterns and shading and what have you. And so I think I kindly graduated from the leaves and Gothic designs more into your industrial, biomechanical style of art. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. I'm going to try to, just like I said, is try to make something from nothing. That's like, I'll come back to this one too later on. Now that this one has been started, I'm going to add on to this at some point. Probably see it in an upcoming video. But here again, like I said, I started with a fresh page. And a new design. And like I said, just to get started, I mean, I have no intentions on anything in particular that I'm gonna do. I just, like I said, start throwing some lines out there and try to visualize something coming off of them, and then work towards that. And again, these, I'm not a pro with the video. So I know these guys, they speed up the videos. I don't know how to speed up the video and keep my voice, at normal speed. So I don't have that technique yet, but maybe in future videos I'll learn how to do it and we'll do it that way. But like I said, just to kind of get started, let me just give you zoom in on that. These are the lines I started with. Like I said, it doesn't look like much, but let's see if I could add anything to it to start creating something. And again, you have to excuse my camera techniques. But I'm more about the drawing. So we got this here started. Let me just make a couple more swoops through here. Random lines, different shapes, different thicknesses. Thing about dip pens, I will tell you, they are sometimes difficult to work with. A lot of times it's all about angle, the angle that you hold the pen at, the pressure that you put on the end of it as you're laying down the ink. All of it, like I said, it's a broad tip pen, but I could get a kind of a pretty fine line out of it. Okay, so in the interest of variety, I'm going to go ahead and move to a finer pen here in just a moment. I just want to give myself a couple borders to work with. Let's start in. Alright, so we're moving off of, let's see what you've seen where we started at with a blank piece of paper, and we drew a couple curvy lines, and still pretty much looks like nothing, doesn't represent anything. But like I said, let's see if I could add a few more lines to it and come up with a little more interesting looks. So I'll move to a finer tip with a smaller pen. This is still, larger, kind of it's not a fine tip pen, plus it has a small round shape to it. Like I said, if you wanted to do polka dots, this would be the perfect pen to do it with. But, because you didn't see that. Let's see, so this is a round tip. However, you can still, like I said, using different angles, you can get different thicknesses, different shapes. And like I said, if you're starting from scratch and you're just trying to get something moving, it's a good pen to start with. Like I said, you just have a little pen and just make a few strokes here and there. And alright, so enough of this pen for now. like I said, just for, again, for interest in variety, I'm just trying to show you examples of the different style pens. Here's one of the one of those fine tip pens I was indicating earlier. Let's see what I can do with this now. These fine tip pens are great for making any types of shape you could think of, but it's also great for really fine lines and for shading. You're laying down ink, but it's almost invisible because they're just barely laying ink down right there. But by the same token, it too can be used for broader lines just by adding a little more pressure to the tip. Might have to make a couple passes, but okay, so I know you really couldn't see a lot of the strokes that I took. I don't have the best lighting and angles. It's hard. Let's see. Let me try to zoom in on this a little bit more. So again, at this point, it still looks pretty bare and doesn't look like much. But let's try to add more to it now. Try to find an appropriate place to put in a new pattern. These open V's, that's always a nice place to put in a new effect. So again, just trying to make something out of what I started with. Again, it doesn't look like anything more, but it's starting to get some character. It's starting to come, come alive a little bit. Barely see that detail that I added, but again, I apologize to the viewers that my video techniques ain't really spectacular. Just like the art itself, the video of doing it is also going to take some skill and practice to make it a little more enjoyable for the viewer as well as myself. So again, if you like to doodle but you want to get more out of it, I highly recommend using dip pens. I do use like your fine tips Sharpie as well. Usually use that to go in behind myself and try to touch up areas that look a little rough. And then I also have a set of these graphic illustration markers as well. Those are also could come in handy in certain areas of my work. Like I said, like when I do my lettering, like I said, I do old English style lettering, and it's all freehand, and they're not perfect, and so I have to go in and touch those up from time to time. But before I close out the video, we got big wide open spaces over here. Let's try to cover some of it. Let's try to do something with that. Add some stripes to it, kind of give it some definition. And then you could come back to that too later, whether it be add additional lines or some shading. Just some, like I said, I'll probably never finish a video or a drawing live, because it really does take me a long time. It could take me a couple hours to fill a page, or it might take me a couple hours and the page is still not filled. My main purpose here is, as I said, how to use dip pins for abstract. And then also in other future videos I'll show you, using the same dip pins for my lettering. Well, I'm going to try to keep this under 30 minutes. I know this doesn't look like much for the amount of time that I've been working on it, but like I said, I'm trying to create as I go. Like I said, I don't have any particular design in mind. I just want it to be impressive when I'm done, and I will tell you now, I am far from done. But until I learn how to edit videos, speed it up. Once I learn how to do that, where I can speed up the video of the work itself, but keep my voice, my narration at normal speed, then you'll be able to see a completed piece instead of just the start, just like the last one. I'll come back and I'll be working on both of these now, and you'll see the before and after, and even intermittently you might see me working on either or both of these on any given video. But for now, just a few quick things I wanted to say. Like I said, you got all different size tips of pens, and some of them sometimes seem like they're doing the same. One tip may look different than another tip, but still has the same results. And again, it all comes down to how much ink you got on the pen, the angle you're holding the pen, the direction that you're going with the pen. It's long story short, it's a tough skill to pick up using those dip pens, but very satisfying though. Results are very satisfying. And again, I can't sit here and brag on what I just filmed. Again, it's just a start, and again, it may or may not come together and look good in the end. I don't know yet. Some of these parts, I'm my own worst critic, by the way. I look at this area right here. I'm not exactly happy with that as it is right now. But like I said, at some point I'm going to be working within these lines. It says I may add shading. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But well, I've hit that 30-minute mark, so I'm going to go ahead and close out for today. And again, I just want to remind everybody, hit that subscribe, smash the like button, hit the bell so you can get notifications for my next video. Y'all have a good night.